After 40 hours of fighting for their lives, the rank forest dragon unleashed its fire breath, destroying the entire field as the adventurers fled. At the same time, a quirky farmer obsessed with agriculture, was looking at his large eggplants, and that was because he had changed the fertilizer he used. When he finished harvesting them all, he realized that he had maximized all his agricultural skills, and his friend Testa became jealous, since even his fishing skill was level 10 and he was supposed to be the best fisherman. After saying that, he was offered the ability to evolve all his agricultural skills, and after maxing out all his skills he was awarded the status of nature lover, and his attack level reached 69,420. However, Owen realized that he needed to take his harvest to the capital. While traveling, he saw a dragon unleashing its fire breath on the adventurers, but they were too weak to fight back. Wondering how to help them, Owen threw his carrot to distract the dragon for a second, but the carrot pierced the dragon and blew it to pieces. The adventurers wondered what the hell they had just witnessed, and even Al was shocked by his own powers, but he decided to continue on his way. As soon as he arrived in the royal capital, he saw a girl being kidnapped, and when the bandit tried to escape, Owen lunged toward him and held him in his arms, but the bandit came back to attack him. However, Owen dodged the attack before throwing him to the ground, leaving the girl surprised. While they were arresting the man, Owen realized that he had gained the ability of advanced perception. The girl thanked him for saving her life, but the bell began to ring, and before she could ask his name, he called her weirdo and ran away from her. After selling all his crops, the guard prevented him from leaving the city, and the girl he saved appeared, introducing herself as Foss, the princess of the royal capital. After he introduced himself, she asked if he wanted to be her royal guard, but he told her no fucking way. Actually, that's what he meant, and he tried to say that he liked tomatoes better. She questioned why he would refuse such a high salary, so Al told her that he only cared about being a farmer for the rest of his life. And after hearing those words, Foss offered him the gigantic royal field, which was over 33 square meters. When he asked why she would go so far for him, she said that he defeated a guy who had an average status above 500, but Al had no idea what the average status was. So she told him that ordinary people have a status of 50, while the captain of the knights is at 600, and the legendary hero has a status of 1000. She asked what his status was, but he knew he definitely couldn't show her. At that moment, the adventurers returned, saying that the forest dragon had been blown up by a frag carrot by a guy who was driving a cart. When Foes connected the dots, Al was already 800 meters away, but she swore she wouldn't give up on finding him. And while he was coming back, Liz was finally getting rid of that weird stranger. At the king's castle, Sissel, captain of the knights, told the king that the Hell Zone was opening, and that the dragon attack along with the princess's kidnapping were all distractions. And since the legendary hero died fighting the demon lord Macbeth, he told the two to flee. Back in his village, Al tried to open his door, but broke the damn handle before entering. After only 3 seconds of relaxing, his friend started banging on the door until he opened it, and told him that there was a huge swarm of monsters coming towards their house. Al was happy to finally end this miserable life, but he remembered that he had to do the annual harvest tomorrow, and ran straight to his field. When he got to the plants, he saw a huge army of demons heading towards the royal capital. He was happy that Falzi was finally eliminated, but when he realized that the destruction of the royal capital would mean the loss of all his funds, he knew he would have to save it again. At the same time, the king and princess were riding their horses until they reached a dead end. Cecil revealed that it was their destiny. As soon as he spoke these words, he threw a magic whip at the king, knocking him down instantly. The soldiers prepared their swords, but Cecil unleashed his magic to eliminate them instantly. It was the perfect opportunity he had been waiting for, and he revealed his true identity as Romeo Vanderte, self-proclaimed Demon King. When the soldier tried to attack him, he was impaled with his magical energy. His real goal was to become the new king of this country, to control everyone, but he needed both of them to disappear before he could achieve that. When he summoned a sphere of energy and threw it at them, the king cast his guardian shield barrier, but the magic orb began to break through the shields. So Faust began to use all his magical powers to reinforce the shield, but Romeo used a type of dark snake to break the shields and close the distance between them. Romeo managed to break all the shields. While activating his Over-Darkness ability, Ao jumped from the sky and hit the ground with his swollen hand, unleashing his ability to plow the ground. The guy started tearing up the ground to neutralize his attacks, and when Faust saw his face, he realized he shouldn't have saved her. When Romeo asked who he was, the boy shouted that he was a farmer and commented that he was just trying to repair the soil because all the nutrients had dried up. However, Romeo disappeared behind him, but Ao grabbed his sword with his own hands and threw him face first into the wall. He realized that Ao was the one getting in the way of his plans, so he turned his wings into spears and sucked the souls out of all his comrades, turning him into a giant demonic beast. After revealing his final form, Faust saw that he was at level 78, and realized that Ao was about to die. As Romeo released his deadly aura and rushed to punch him, Ao landed a single hook on him, defeating him with a single blow and causing all the demons to flee. The next day, the king congratulated him for saving the entire country, but Ao already knew how this would end. Before he could escape, the king asked him if he would serve his country. Ao tried to tell him that he was just a farmer, but the king told him that he would give him his daughter if he accepted. But Faust knew that Ao liked vegetables better. She told him that to reward him for saving everyone, she would give him 33 square meters of farmland on the condition that he register with a guild. So Ao agreed to defend the city and shook her hand, but he had just fallen for the biggest scam of all time, because when he arrived at that farmland, he realized it was just a vacant lot. After 20 seconds of the worst CGI, Faust took him to the Adventurers Guild and told him to keep it a secret that she was the princess. Before entering, she said that from now on he should call her daughter, and she equipped a magic clip that would fool people when they saw her, and left her maid in the castle acting as her double. When they entered the guild, Wolverine recognized him as the guy everyone was talking about and took him to the receptionist, but when he tried to introduce himself, his stomach growled louder than a dragon. So she took him to a table where she made him eat a cream pie. She wondered why he decided to become an adventurer, but he tried to hide the madness that had armed him. However, the adventurers from before appeared and realized that it was he who had defeated the rankest dragon, shocking everyone in the guild. Jake introduced himself along with Luke and Limia, and they invited him to adventure together in the future. He noticed that he was getting further and further away from staying in the fields, but the receptionist said he would start at rank G, explaining that the rankings were from G to SS, with SS being reserved for legendary heroes. However, hearing how he defeated the rankest dragon, she was sure they would quickly become rank S. For his first mission, she had him gather 10 medicinal herbs and told him to protect himself in case any monsters appeared. However, Al was broke and couldn't afford anything, so the receptionist gave him her defensive cloak. After he put it on, she froze and said she felt nostalgic looking at him, congratulating him on becoming an official adventurer. Before he left the guild, she introduced herself as Ellen. A few hours later, Al had already gathered 9 herbs, but he saw a mysterious scale on the ground. However, a pamphlet had nothing about dragons nearby, but said that there were orcs straight out of Goblin Slayer who wanted to develop the whole plot, and only then did a giant female orc appear before him. But at that moment, Jake cut the orc with a single blow, and her body disintegrated into bubbles. Al thanked him for saving his innocence, and when the other adventurers appeared, he asked if they had seen those scales before. But even though it was an unidentified monster, Jake said it could be from the Black Dragon God. As soon as he uttered those words, the entire forest was engulfed in a dark aura, and the black dragon appeared before their eyes. The fear of seeing the dragon froze them, but the creature passed by them as if they didn't even exist, and before it could disappear, Al tried to look at its stats, but could barely see that it was over 100,000. That night, Ellen was running away from that dragon before she died, but she woke up from the nightmare and realized she was still in her uniform. The next morning, her mother noticed that she looked terrible, and Ellen said she didn't remember anything that happened before she went to sleep, and Al appeared to report what he saw in the forest. When they met with the guildmaster, they told him that the dragon had enough power to destroy the entire country in an instant, and saw that its name was Ouroboros. When Ellen heard that name, she collapsed on the table, but tried to get up because she wanted to know everything about it. Al showed her one of the scales he had found on the dragon, and when Ellen laid eyes on it, all her memories began to come back. She remembered her brother screaming for her as the dragon bit him, ending his life in that moment. After regaining these memories, Ellen fainted on the floor. While Al waited for her, her adoptive mother, who entered the room, was shocked to see him wearing the robe Ellen had given him. She then told him that Ellen has no memories of her childhood. When she found her, the only thing Ellen had was the robe, and she asked if all of this was connected to Ouroboros. Hearing these words, Al promised to find out even if it was dangerous, but she said that he was just a useless rank G adventurer, so before he could leave alone, she gave him all the recovery potions and begged him to stay safe. What a shitty script. After leaving the guild, the postman gave Al a letter from his mother, and ran away faster than the Flash, but came back and introduced himself as Hicks. After hours of studying in the library, he wondered how he would face the dragon 4 times stronger than him. However, he realized that there might be some information about it since Ellen was found, but the librarian told him that she did not give access to peasants. Then suddenly the princess appears and says that he is under her authority. She asked the librarian for access, and when they went to the confidential room, she found the damage report and handed it to Al. After reading it, he realized that Ouroboros had destroyed Ellen's village 15 years ago before being defeated by the sacred dragon Mirage. However, they realized that it must have survived that battle, so Al decided to investigate the village the next day, and Fal decided to join him. When they arrived at the village, they saw that everything was in ruins, but Al heard a voice in his head telling him to go toward the sound. After walking for a long time, he came to a grave, and the ghost of a boy began to speak to him, but Philia wondered if Al had finally lost his mind. He tried to tell her that there was a child in front of him, but she couldn't see him. Then the ghost introduced himself as Ray, saying he had been waiting for the day when someone could hear his voice. At the same time, Alan felt a deep desire in her soul. Ray asked where he got that cloak, so Al revealed that he had received it from Ellen and realized that this could be the reason why he could talk to him. Then he hugged Philia with all his might, and she was able to see Ray floating above his grave, which frightened her a little. The ghost revealed that Ellen was his sister and that this village used to be his home. In order to protect her mind, she sealed her memories, so he begged him to save his sister from the danger that was to come. Because 15 years ago, Ray used to practice every day to become the next legendary hero, and promised his sister that he would train no matter how many injuries he had. But after saying that, a dark and luminous aura began to engulf the village, and they saw that their entire village had caught fire along with their family members. From above they saw the dragon's wings. But as they tried to hide, the dragon spotted a family. As it tried to eat them alive, the little boy tried to protect his relatives, but the dragon said it hated humans without fear, as hope was poison to it. Then, before their eyes, it ate his family and destroyed all the hope he had before swallowing their souls. Ray tried to tell his sister that they should run away, but even after running for hours, the dragon found them and cornered them. As they continued running, the dragon continued destroying the forest around them, saying that what he liked most was seeing the despair on their faces. Soon she stumbled to the ground, and the dragon landed in front of her, saying he would feast on her soul, which was full of despair. Ray threw a dagger into the dragon's eye and told his sister to start running, but the dragon healed its wound and decided to devour the boy first. When it lunged at him, Ray told his sister to run away, and the dragon bit him. Seeing this scene, she was overcome with despair. The dragon laughed at her agony, but decided to let her live, because in 15 years he promised he would return to devour her along with the entire city, their souls covered in despair. However, Ray said that even after he died, he would never let his younger sister be hurt. So the dragon allowed his soul to remain on Earth and wait for the day when his sister would meet her fate, and disappeared before their eyes. Ray promised he would never give up, but his soul left his body, and his sister was left crying alone. That was what happened 15 years ago, but Ray told them that Ouroboros always left a single survivor alone, because they would spread the terrifying story among everyone, creating a chain reaction of fear to revive the dragon. The only way to defeat Ouroboros was not to fall for his fear tactics, so he told them to go to his sister and pass on his secret in a message. A few minutes later, when they arrived at the castle, Follow told him that he was extremely fast and rude when carrying a princess. At Ellen's house, her mother realized she was no longer in her room. They arrived in the city just in time before the dragon appeared. Follows, offended by the way she was carried, called him a monster, but she was also impressed by Ellen's physical strength. They split up. Ellen went to look for Helen, while Follows mobilized the guards. At the guild, Helen's adoptive mother went to her room, but found that she had disappeared. Helen was walking alone through the forest. The black dragon appeared before her. He greeted her after 15 years, and the memories Helen had lost began to return. She remembered that she felt guilty for her brother's death. The dragon reinforced this memory, saying that Lei would have escaped if she hadn't fallen. The creature claimed that because of her, everyone in the city would die. Helen begged him not to attack the city, offering her own life in exchange. The dragon, however, claimed that no one would survive. Helen, overcome with despair, prepared to take her own life. Elle arrived in time to stop her. Helen came to her senses, but the dragon attacked Elle and threw him away. Elle survived thanks to the protection of the cloak. The dragon was surprised that a human had resisted the attack. Elle declared that he was not just human, he was a farmer. Helen asked him to flee, but Elle advanced on the dragon, punching it in the face. He told Helen she didn't need to worry. The dragon was surprised that it was being hurt by a human. It decided it wanted to see Elle fall into despair. The fight between the two began. The dragon attacked with its claws, and Elle fought to defend himself. He managed to land another blow, but the dragon unleashed a destructive blast of fire. Elle was thrown back. Helen screamed for him to leave her, as she didn't want anyone else to die because of him. Elle replied that it wasn't her fault. He told her that he had found his brother's spirit. He said that Lei knew she would blame herself when she regained her memories. and he asked Al to tell her that he didn't blame her. He was proud to have protected her and wanted her to live happily for both of them. These words restored Helen's hope, and the dragon's power began to weaken. Enraged, the dragon lunged at them. Al faced him and, taking advantage of his weakness, defeated him with a punch. Al finally relaxed. However, right after defeating the dragon, Helen stabbed him. He was confused and tried to reach for a potion but dropped it. Helen attacked him again and he barely managed to dodge. He tried to ask what was going on, but Helen rushed to finish him off. Suddenly, a wing appeared between them. The sacred dragon Mirage appeared and revealed that Helen was being possessed by the evil dragon. Mirage healed Al and transferred her powers to him, but collapsed as a result. The sacred dragon explained that she had granted Al the power to purify the black dragon and save Helen. The evil dragon sneered, believing that Al would hesitate to harm Helen's body. But Al reacted immediately and punched it. The creature was shocked, and Al saw in Helen's eyes that she wanted to be stopped. Helen seemed to regain consciousness. When Al tried to help her up, she grabbed him, and the soul of the evil dragon burst from its body, trying to possess Al. The dragon proclaimed its victory, but there was a problem. Inside Al's heart there was only agriculture. The dragon was perplexed to realize that there was nothing but planting and harvesting. He found nothing to corrupt and was expelled from Al's body. The sacred dragon rose again and used its power to purify Helen. The evil dragon's soul was destroyed. The sacred dragon thanked Al for his help. The sacred light disappeared, leaving Al and Helen unconscious. When Al awoke, he was in the guild. Phallus hugged him, relieved to know he was okay. Al asked what had happened to the dragons. Helen explained that Ouroboros had been purified and that the sacred dragon had also disappeared. Al wanted to know if Helen was okay after being possessed. She replied that she was, and said that she now had the ability to transform her arms and legs into dragon claws. Al was startled, believing that she was still being controlled, but Helen showed that she could use the power freely. She stated that she intended to use this strength for good and help others in the future. Suddenly, Helen wanted to know what Faris' relationship with Al was, not recognizing that she was a princess, as she was still wearing the magic hair clip. Al was slightly apprehensive, and Faris replied that they were childhood friends. The guild master suddenly entered the room, accompanied by Jake and his companions. They were relieved to see that Helen was fine and were impressed that Al had defeated the evil dragon. They asked what reward the palace would give him, and Faris swore that there would be a great reward, almost revealing his true identity unintentionally. A party was organized to celebrate Al's victory. Luke teased Al for not drinking with the group, but Faris read his thoughts. She realized that Al was thinking about the potatoes he needed to harvest in the morning, and told him he should relax. Helen showed everyone her new powers, and everyone enjoyed the night with joy. The next morning, Testa helped Al with the harvest. He was impressed with Al's ability to maintain 2 different farms. Suddenly, Rix the postman came running and handed Al a letter. It was a message from his father, saying that they hadn't seen him in a long time and asking him to visit them. Al was torn, as he was busy with many guild missions. Back in the capital, Al passed by a tomato stand. He was enchanted by the shape and color of the fruits. When he took a bite, he was surprised by the taste, finding them delicious. He wanted to know who had produced them and discovered that they came from a farm in the town of Lalugas. The seller explained that the secret was in a special fertilizer. Al immediately ran to the guild and told Helen that he needed some time away, which left her in a panic. Al explained that he intended to visit his family in Lalugas and investigate the tomatoes. He asked if other adventurers could cover his missions. Helen said she could replace him herself, revealing that she had also become an adventurer thanks to her powers. Outside the guild, he ran into Fellows. She wanted to accompany Al on a mission, but he explained his plans to visit his parents. She got excited and decided to accompany him to meet and thank his parents. Al tried to discourage her but failed, and quickly ran away. While walking through the forest, Al became excited about the idea of trying the tomatoes. Suddenly, an orc appeared. At first it seemed friendly, and Al remembered that male orcs were usually nice to other men. However, he discovered that the creature had different intentions. Al tried to run away but was captured, and the orc tried to rape him. He was saved by a young woman with blue hair. Still shaken by the incident, Al said that this was the second time he had been attacked by an orc. The girl explained that the forest was dangerous, but Al said that he was also an adventurer. She introduced herself as Ruri, and the two realized they were heading to Lalugas. They decided to continue their journey together. Al was concerned whether it was appropriate for her to travel with a man, considering they would have to spend the night in the woods. Ruri joked that she would cut off his head if he tried anything, and said she wasn't worried because she didn't think she was pretty. Al replied that she was indeed pretty, and Ruri was flattered. They continued their journey and suddenly sensed a dangerous presence, but it was only Vikings. The postman delivered another letter to Al, a message from his mother. Al told Ruri that he had been receiving several letters, and that was why he was going to visit his parents. However, he confessed that his real goal was to find out more about the special fertilizer. Then he began to talk passionately about tomatoes, and Ruri got a headache. Al asked Ruri about her family, wanting to know if they were worried about her being an adventurer on her own. Ruri replied that no one would worry about her. She changed the subject and suggested they set up camp. She took a tent out of her small bag and Al was impressed by how much she could fit inside. He wanted to know more about the bag, and Ruri said it was a relic left by an ancestor. Al wanted to know who this ancestor was, but his stomach growled and the two stopped to cook something. Al was amazed by Ruri's food and praised her use of ingredients. He asked her why she was going to Lalugas. Ruri explained that it was for training, as she had heard rumors of demon sightings and wanted to investigate. Al wanted to know why she would take on something so dangerous, and Ruri revealed that she was a descendant of the great hero who had defeated the Demon King. Al was impressed, but still concerned that she was a girl traveling alone. Ruri froze for a moment, surprised that someone cared about her, and thanked him for his concern. They decided to rest. Al wanted to sleep outside on the ground. Ruri insisted that he sleep inside the tent, saying she trusted him. Al thought it was inappropriate, but she commented that there might be more orcs, and he immediately changed his mind. Al was surprised to discover that Ruri had 2 sets of sheets. She said her dream was to talk with a friend until they fell asleep together. Al wanted to help her fulfill that wish, but she ended up falling asleep instantly. During the night, Ruri attacked him in her sleep, and Al had a troubled night. The next morning, Lugus arrived. Ruri asked why Al was hurt, and he avoided the question. They entered the city and said goodbye. Ruri said she enjoyed traveling with him and wanted to accompany him again. Al asked her to be his escort when he returned to the capital, and she gladly accepted. She drew a map and asked him to look for her when he was ready to return. Ruri began to ask about the demons, but no one in the city knew anything. Suddenly, she heard a scream. A girl said that her sister had been kidnapped by a demon. She said her sister had been taken to the ghost forest, and Ruri ran to look for her. A man watched her from afar, hidden. Meanwhile, Al went to visit his parents. When he approached the door, about to ring the bell, it opened with a bang. His mother hugged him so enthusiastically that she knocked him over. She was overjoyed to see him and ended up suffocating him with her hugs. Al struggled to breathe, but she wouldn't let go. His father appeared and punched Al in the face, thinking he was attacking his wife. He soon realized it was his son. His wife was furious, dragged her husband inside and punished him. During dinner, Al was fed a delicious meal made by his mother, while his father continued to be punished. Al compared the food to Ruri's, and his mother immediately wanted to know if she was his girlfriend. His father said he should get married and have children, but his mother shot him down, saying Al was still too young for that. Al explained that Ruri was just someone he had recently met, and his mother apologized for jumping to conclusions. Later, Al's father asked him why he had come to visit, and Al replied that he had come in search of the special fertilizer. His father pointed out on the map where he could find it, but then pointed to another marked spot and asked what it was. Al explained that it was the hotel where Ruri was staying, but his father said he didn't remember there being a hotel there. Al then asked if he knew anything about demons, but his father replied that he had never heard of anything like that. He said it was time to go to bed, and Al quickly ran to his father's bed, saying he couldn't go back to his own room because his mother was waiting for him there. The next day, Al collected the fertilizer and decided to visit Ruri. On the way, he heard screams and ran toward the crowd. A man said he had been attacked by a demon, but that he had managed to escape thanks to a blue-haired girl. Al asked where this had happened and ran off to find Ruri. As soon as he left, the man got up, and with a snap of his fingers, the crowd and the hotel disappeared, revealing themselves to be an illusion. Al crossed the forest in search of Ruri and found the girl she had met before being attacked by a demon. He easily destroyed the creature, but when he thanked her, the girl turned into a demon and attacked Al. Ruri suddenly appeared and saved him. She explained that the forest was full of these creatures. At that moment, the man from before appeared again. He introduced himself as Loki and revealed his true demonic identity. He found it amusing that Ruri had been so easily deceived, considering that no one in the city had ever seen demons, and called her unworthy of being the heroine. Ruri wondered why Al had been involved in this, since Loki should have been after her alone. But Loki said that Al was even more important, as he had single-handedly defeated General Romeo and the evil dragon. Al understood that he was an ally of the demons, but Loki claimed that Romeo and the dragon were on a lower level than him. Ruri tried to attack him, but Loki easily dodged and counterattacked. Al rushed to her aid and used his healing magic. Loki was surprised by this ability and regretted not eliminating Al first. Ruri apologized to Al and said she was no match for Loki, but Al replied that she didn't need to worry, as he was just a farmer. Al advanced against Loki but was thrown back. He kept trying to attack but was thrown to the ground with force. A huge impact formed a crater and Al could barely stand. Still, he got up and managed to land a punch on Loki. The demon counterattacked with a blow infused with dark energy that sent Al flying. During the fall, the package Al was carrying broke. Loki began to regenerate and recognized that his allies would never stand a chance against someone like Al. Al also healed himself with magic and got back on his feet. Loki was ready to end the fight, but Al wanted to know why he was being pursued. Loki explained that he intended to eliminate anyone who posed a threat to his plans, including Al, Ruri, and Helen, who had inherited the powers of the evil dragon. Al was shocked to learn that Helen was one of the targets. Loki then mentioned that Ruri, as a future heroine, should bring the blessing of the holy god, but had not yet demonstrated any divine power. He decided to end it all by summoning demonic worms. Al and Ruri had difficulty fighting them, and Ruri insisted that Al flee, but he refused, saying that he wanted to be the best farmer, and that he could not forgive himself if he left her behind. They managed to defeat the worms, but Loki launched another attack. While protecting Ruri from the magic, a huge explosion occurred. When the smoke cleared, both were still alive but seriously injured. More worms appeared. Ruri was thrown away, and Al was immobilized. Loki warned that once the worms bit, they would never let go. He then turned his attention to Ruri, ready to finish her off. Ruri remembered her parents encouraging her, even when others said she would never be a hero. She apologized for failing. As Loki launched his final blow, suddenly the worms turned white and shattered. Al managed to free himself. He explained that it was all thanks to the power of the fertilizer, which also had a pesticide effect. With that, the worms lost their ability to regenerate. Loki was surprised but still confident, as Al was badly injured. Even so, Al advanced with determination, promising to protect Ruri and Helen. Ruri didn't understand why he was fighting so hard. She thought about the past, when everyone said she was too weak to be a hero, and she had given up. Observing Al's determination, she realized that being a hero is not about strength, but about never giving up on helping others. While Al kept Loki busy, Ruri managed to stab him. The wound regenerated immediately, but she didn't stop. Suddenly, she awakened her hero powers and attacked Loki with a sacred blow. The attack was devastating. Ruri followed up with another blow and finished Loki off. She thanked Al for helping her understand the true meaning of being a hero, but Al collapsed from exhaustion. As he slept in her lap, Ruri confessed in a low voice that she was in love with him. Night fell. When Al woke up, they experienced an awkward moment. Ruri thanked him again but was embarrassed. They decided to return to the city. On the way, they heard a strange sound. Al suspected that Loki was still alive. The noise grew louder. Ruri was scared, saying she didn't deal well with ghosts. A voice called out to Al. It was his mother, who was looking for him. When he realized who it was, Al panicked, not wanting to be found with Ruri. He picked up the girl in his arms and ran as fast as he could. Al was relieved when they got away, and Ruri laughed when she realized that there was something that could scare Al. He could only imagine his mother's face. Back in the city, they were surprised to see that the hotel had disappeared. They concluded that it was all an illusion created by Loki. Ruri found another place to stay, and Al told her that he would return to the capital the next day. As he walked home, Al remembered a day when he had gone out to play with Tessa without telling his parents. His mother had searched for them desperately. They had returned secretly, but she was already waiting for them at the door. Al wondered if his mother had some kind of teleportation ability. When he arrived, she was indeed waiting for him. He tried to avoid her, but she appeared behind him like a ghost. Al ran away, passed straight by his father, and locked himself in his room, leaving his father to deal with the consequences. The next day, his mother begged him not to leave. Al, with no alternative, said he would hate her if she continued to behave that way, and she immediately apologized. Al left and met up with Ruri. Together they began their return to the capital. Meanwhile, in the capital, Phalos had an emotional farewell with her father, the king, who apologized for disappointing her. Al and Ruri arrived at the guild, and Helen felt jealous of their relationship, even demonstrating her demonic powers to impress. The next day, a boy was picking some fruit in the fields, but was surprised by Al. Rory and Helen arrived to help on the farm and saw Al furious. They were surprised by his anger, but soon realized that he was just irritated that they had picked the fruit before it was ripe. He scolded the boy firmly. The boy apologized and his stomach growled. Al offered him a cabbage. The boy was moved by the taste and ran off happily. Helen commented that during Al's absence there had been monster attacks, which blocked trade with other countries and caused food prices to rise, making life difficult for the poorest. Suddenly, they heard the sound of a bell signaling another monster attack. They ran to help. The sea was being invaded by a huge horde of creatures. Guards and adventurers fought with difficulty. Helen revealed her demonic transformation and fought with her new powers. Al advanced with his hoe, throwing monsters away. However, the numbers seemed endless, and they began to be overwhelmed. Suddenly, knights from the kingdom of Annesburg arrived, threatening the monsters with the legendary holy sword Levitine. The creatures retreated and fled. Al was surprised to learn that there was a sword capable of repelling monsters. Later that night, Al was polishing his trusty hoe when Phalos appeared to say goodbye. Al didn't understand what she meant, and she revealed that she would not be returning. The conversation was interrupted by her maid, who said it was time to leave. She thanked him for everything, leaving Al confused and silent. A few days later, the monster attacks ceased, and life returned to normal. Al received a visit from the boy and his mother. The woman apologized for her son and said that if he ever needed a seamstress, he could look for her in town. They bought more vegetables before leaving. As soon as they left, Al was surprised by Rix's sudden arrival. Al received another letter from his mother, and Rix also gave him a copy of the newspaper, which shocked him as he read it. At the guild, Helen and Rory were also reading the same edition. They discovered that Phalos was engaged to the prince of the kingdom of Annesburg. Helen wondered if it was a political marriage, a way to ensure that Annesburg would continue to protect the country. Rory found it strange how the monsters had retreated before the knights, since these creatures should not be able to understand human words. Al suddenly appeared and handed the two girls the letter he had received. The first page was filled with declarations of love from his mother, which embarrassed him so much that he tore it up. He then handed them a second sheet containing a report written by his mother about the monster attacks. She had heard rumors about the incidents and started her own investigation to make sure Al was safe. During her search, she discovered that the so-called Holy Sword of Annesburg had no special powers and was in fact just an ordinary blade. Helen and Rory were surprised by this revelation and questioned how she could know this. Al asked them to continue reading. They discovered that his mother had once been the commander of an organization called the Shadow Puppeteers. The two were stunned to hear this name, while Al admitted he didn't know what it meant. They explained that the Shadow Puppeteers were an elite group of spies, capable of uncovering any secret no matter how hidden. Al was stunned to learn this about his mother. As they continued reading, they discovered that the monsters were being summoned by a demon residing in Annesburg. This demon had his beloved captured and because of this, was forced to send monsters to attack other countries. The group came to the conclusion that Annesburg had manipulated the entire situation, coordinating the attacks so that he could then present himself as the savior and demand marriage to Princess Phalos in return. Al stated that he would save the princess, which surprised the two girls, especially since Phalos always used magic to disguise her identity when she was with them. Al tried to correct himself by saying that as citizens they all had a duty to protect the princess. With this argument, he managed to convince them. Helen said it would be difficult to enter Annesburg, but Al replied that he had already recruited Rix as a guide. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Annesburg, Prince Netelos was meeting with leaders from various nations seeking protection from monster attacks. He claimed that there was a limit to what he could do with just a holy sword, while the leaders tried to convince him with promises and benefits in exchange for security. Later, Netelos celebrated the success of his plan and ordered the demon Gazelle to expand the attacks. Gazelle, however, wanted to stop the fighting, as he did not wish to continue sacrificing his companions. Netelos reacted violently, reminding him that his beloved was still in captivity. Phalos entered at that moment and rebuked the prince for the way he treated his subordinates. A guard arrived to report that the wedding carriage was late, which deeply angered Netelos. Noticing Phalos' presence, he tried to hide his anger and said he was looking forward to the ceremony. Back in his room, Phalos expressed his desire to see All again, unaware that Netelos was watching her from outside, suspicious of who occupied his thoughts. The next morning, All went to the seamstress to pick up some new clothes and promised to deliver more vegetables. He met with the others, and Hicks explained the plan. They would all infiltrate the ceremony disguised as merchants, while Hicks would lure monsters to the site to expose the sham of the Holy Sword. Helen asked how he would do that, and Hicks revealed that he was actually a demon. The three were perplexed. Hicks said that he was also a member of the Shadow Puppeteers, and that he had been taken in by All's mother when he was younger. He explained that there were several demons living among humans, told them that the demon under threat had fallen in love with a human girl, and was ultimately captured by the prince. All promised that they would save everyone involved. The group set off and managed to pass through the gates of Andesburg. All was confident in their farmer disguises, although the girls were not impressed. The group reviewed the plan. The mission was to enter the castle, rescue Gazelle's beloved, and take her to the church, where the demon would publicly reveal that the holy sword was fake. As they approached the castle, All was stopped by a guard. He claimed to be delivering vegetables, thinking it would be convincing. The guard was suspicious, and the three were pursued. Helen decided to throw All into the castle, asking him to continue with the mission. All was lucky enough to fall directly into the room where the girl was being held captive. He asked her to run away with him. As they were going to rescue Gazelle, guards stormed the place, but All used his vegetables to deal with them. Since the girl was chained, he carried her in his arms and fled. He reunited with Helen and Riri, and the three continued their escape, still being pursued. When they saw the church, Helen and Riri asked All to go on alone and save Phallos. In the church, the ceremony continued, and Phallos said yes. At the moment of the kiss, the door was broken down by All, who interrupted everything. Phallos was overjoyed to see him. Metalos claimed that All was a villain who intended to kidnap the princess. All declared that the real villain was the prince, and that the sacred sword was nothing but a sham. Metalos asked if there was any proof. Even the king said he had witnessed the power of the sword. All said he could prove it, and at that moment, a guard rushed in to announce that the capital was under attack by monsters. Outside, Rix led the horde toward the city. The guests demanded that Metalos use the sword. When the prince called for Gazelle, he saw that the demon had already reunited with his beloved. Rix handed the sword to the prince, who hesitated to touch it. All shouted that it was fake, and threw it at a monster, which destroyed it with a bite. Gazelle then confessed in front of everyone. He used a demonic flute to control the creatures, and had been forced by the prince to lead the attacks. The king demanded the truth, and Metalos just laughed. He said it was too late, as he had scattered monster carcasses to attract more hordes to the capital. Gazelle, confused, claimed he had never ordered this. Metalos explained that it was enough to scatter the remains to attract the creature's attention. The prince celebrated, certain that no one could stop him. At that moment, Ruri and Alan appeared and said that the capital would resist. After the last invasion, the guards and adventurers had asked Ruri to train them again, and now they were ready to fight. The king wept with emotion. Aldisia said she no longer needed to marry. The guards entered the church. Metalos ordered them to arrest all the invaders, but the soldiers dropped their weapons. Ruri and Alan explained that they had revealed the whole truth to the guards, and they had decided to switch sides. Metalos, furious, advanced on the king, but was hit by a radish, and Alan knocked him out. The prince was taken into custody. Phallos jumped into Ala's arms and confessed his love for him. Ruri was confused and overcome with jealousy. Al tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, but even the king thanked him and welcomed him as part of the family. As he left the scene, the king was approached by Ix, who handed him a letter. The letter revealed that Metalos was only a minor piece in a much larger plan. Ix warned the king to be vigilant. After that, everyone celebrated at the guild. The guild master said that many were requesting Al's services, but he replied that he just wanted to continue being a farmer. Phallos visited the guild, and rewarded the adventurers for their help in defending the capital. Alan observed her behavior and questioned why she seemed to know the princess, which caused Al to panic. Later, Phallos returned wearing her disguise, and Al had difficulty keeping the secret. She officially met Rudy and declared that she would be the one to stay with Al. Unable to handle the situation, Al simply withdrew to tend to his crops. While harvesting his vegetables, he noticed that Rudy and Phallos had followed him to the field. The two asked which one he preferred, but Al tried to distract them by talking about his harvest. Rudy then asked if there was someone else he was interested in, and Al replied that there was. The two were shocked to hear this, but before they could react, Al ran away. Back at his house, Al looked at a photo and remembered a girl named Olivia. A memory from 15 years ago popped into his mind. His father was harvesting potatoes, and was surprised to see that Al had harvested a huge amount. Al was beaming, but his mother was angry to find out that her husband was making the boy work. Al decided to take some of the potatoes to the neighbors, but on the way, they saw a girl being chased by two men. The girl was a thief, and Al was curious about who she was. The neighbors said she was an orphan who lived in the mountains, and that the men wanted to sell her. The girl bit one of the men and managed to escape. She ran past, grabbed the basket of potatoes, and fled. She then hid and devoured the vegetables, but Al found her. She tried to run away again, but noticed that he was carrying food. Al explained that potatoes tasted better when cooked in soup. Even though she was afraid, she couldn't resist the smell and ended up eating what he left behind. In the days that followed, Al began to bring her food regularly. Over time, the girl began to wait for him, and finally the two were able to talk. She introduced herself as Olivia and was impressed by the quality of the food Al grew. When Al's stomach growled, she offered him part of her sandwich. But before they could continue, the two men captured her again, intending to sell her. Al argued that Olivia had stopped stealing, but the men insisted that they needed to recover their losses. Al begged them to release her, offering to pay for everything she had stolen. They didn't believe him. At that moment, Al's father appeared and heard what was happening. He offered 3 months' worth of rice as compensation, which satisfied the men who left. Al was worried if they would be okay after that, and his father commented that his mother would certainly not be happy. He said they would have to ration food for the next few months. Olivia returned the potatoes she had stolen. Al's father suggested that they could use another person on the farm. Al enthusiastically accepted the idea and invited Olivia to live with them. She was extremely happy. 2 years later, Olivia was already helping on the farm. One day she wanted to take a break, but Al was enthusiastic about the work and suggested she go play with the other children. Olivia replied that she just wanted to stay by his side. Suddenly, Testa appeared, being chased by killer bees. Al's mother intervened easily, defeating the insects. She informed him that she and her husband would be leaving for the capital in search of a new home. Al found this strange, as he believed their current home was in good condition. His parents asked him to take care of the farm during their absence. After they left, Al asked Testa why he had been attacked by bees, since they did not usually inhabit that region. Testa then revealed a map that indicated a great treasure hidden in the forest. With the bees gone, he believed it would be safe to look for it. Al decided to go with him. Olivia asked to go along, but Al said it could be dangerous and left her behind. As they walked, Al wondered why Olivia was always so attached to him. Testa explained that she was bullied when she was alone. Al was surprised to hear this and understood that this was the reason why her parents were looking for a new home. The two arrived at the location indicated on the map and stepped on a stone that activated a mechanism. The mountain opened up and they fell inside. They explored the place and found a sign with inscriptions they did not understand. When Al touched the artifact, it began to glow and everything around them went dark. A giant monster appeared and devoured Al. An eruption occurred, and the sky was engulfed in fire. When Al awoke, he saw Olivia, but felt a sharp pain in his chest. Testa appeared, and Al asked what had happened in the forest. The two went outside and found everything destroyed, covered in ashes. The bridge leading to the city was also in ruins, preventing any contact with the capital. Food began to be rationed, but there was not enough for everyone. Upon checking the farm, Al discovered that the entire harvest had been lost. Feeling the pain in his body, Al fell to the ground, but his biggest concern was finding food for Olivia. That night, Olivia tried to steal food from the elder's tent, but she remembered Al's request, who wanted to see her start over. She remembered him saying how much he liked to see people happy eating his vegetables. That memory made her give up on the theft. The next day, Olivia gathered all the remaining food and gave it to Al. He was surprised by the amount and asked where it had come from. Olivia lied, saying that Olivia had arrived from the capital with supplies. Al was relieved, and Olivia said she couldn't wait to eat the vegetables he would grow. Over the next few days, she continued to give all her food to Al. Eventually she fainted while thinking about him. Al noticed her absence and asked where she was. Testa came running and said he had found Olivia's body. He said she had starved to death. Al was confused, as he believed they had received help from the capital. Testa explained that nothing had arrived yet. Al understood what Olivia had done for him. He cried for her loss and blamed himself deeply. He remembered the promise he had made to grow food for her, and he went back to work on the farm. Sometime later, after defeating a dragon with a single blow, Al found an unconscious girl on the ground and decided to take her to his home. When she woke up, he saw that she was fine. She asked how she had gotten there and wanted to know if he had kidnapped her. Al tried to explain that he had no bad intentions and that he only helped out of concern. The girl said she was on her way to the guild to register for a mission. Al offered to take her there. He introduced himself, and she revealed that her name was Linnea. Later, Ruria showed up to visit Al, but she was visibly shaken when she saw Linnea wearing her clothes. She misinterpreted the situation, cried, and called him an idiot before running away. They went together to the guild, where Helen heard Linnea's request. She said that something strange was happening in her town but had difficulty explaining it. Helen found the request too vague, but Al accepted the mission. Upon learning that Linnea was from the town of Gallia, Al lost control. Gallia was famous for having the best asparagus in the world, and he was eager to visit the place. As they prepared to leave, Linnea was confused by Al's kindness. She thought he must have some ulterior motive, as her father had taught her that men were like wolves. Al tried to assure her that his intentions were good. Although still suspicious, Linnea decided to trust him. Meanwhile, Ruri watched from afar and began to feel jealous. The group soon arrived in the city of Gaul, but during the journey they were pursued by an orc. Al panicked, but the coachman seemed unconcerned. When he turned around, he saw that there was an entire order behind them, and Al was emotionally shaken because of his previous experiences with these creatures. When he woke up, Al realized he was wearing a necklace. Linnea explained that the necklace helped calm his nerves. When they finally passed through the city gates, Al found it strange that the guards were armed only with mops. At the market, he saw a stall and immediately ordered a skewer of asparagus. While the food was being prepared, he tried to ask the vendor if he had noticed anything strange in the city. The man replied that everything was normal and handed him the food, but the skewer was completely burnt. Al was confused, but then he realized that the man's behavior was strange. A cart suddenly overturned, and when Al went to check on the driver, he noticed that he was also acting abnormally. Al was then carried away by someone. Later, he visited Linnea's house. Her family ran a necklace shop, and she believed that thanks to the accessories, she was not being affected like the rest of the population. Al asked where her parents were, and Linnea said they had disappeared since the anomaly began. The residents were acting crazy and couldn't communicate normally. The feudal lord of the city appeared, and Al was honored to meet the man responsible for starting the asparagus revolution. Al asked about the situation in the city, and the lord replied that it was a long story, inviting him to dinner. But before he could respond, Al was again carried away to another place. Later, he and the others went to the feudal lord's house and met with him for dinner. Al tried to ask about the events in the city, but the lord ordered the guards to surround Al. In an instant, Al defeated all the soldiers and ran towards the nobleman, but Linnea stood between them. The lord revealed that Linnea was working for him and revealed himself to be possessed by a demon. He crystallized his powers and planted them in the statue of the goddess to control everyone within the city. The final step in his plan was to take control of the royal capital, but after hearing how Al had defeated Romeo and Ouroboros, he knew that taking control of him would result in having the greatest super soldier that no one could defeat. Al asked why Linnea was helping him, but she told him that she was just forced to do so. After all, he was holding her mother and father hostage. Al realized she wasn't lying, so he told the demon to do whatever he wanted. But as the crystal was approaching his head, Linnea remembered all the moments he had spent with her and begged him to run away. But Al smiled and threw a stone on the floor, blinding everyone in the room. Outside, the statue of the goddess was completely destroyed, and her control disappeared. Al revealed that it was a communication stone for his friends to destroy the statue of the goddess when they received his signal. The demon asked how he communicated with his friends if Linnea was watching him the whole time. Then Al revealed that there were 2 moments when she wasn't watching, and that was when he was being kidnapped by the 2 girls, Ruri and Ellen. The second time they kidnapped him, they realized that everyone was being controlled by the statue, so they wanted him to find out how the Lord was controlling everyone, and he was just waiting for their signal to destroy the statue. As for Linnea's parents, Ruri and Ellen had already rescued them, but the demon still had one more hostage. Knowing that the Lord of that town loved asparagus from the bottom of his heart, he pulled out some asparagus, and the demon thought he was being stupid. Then Al stuck the Gwella stick in, and after chewing, the Lord remembered how much he loved asparagus, and the demon was no longer able to control him. Then Al punched him, defeating him once and for all. Before leaving, Al asked them if he could keep the pendant, so she said it was the least she could do for him, and she approached and stood on tiptoe, and when the girls looked, she told him that she would eventually go to the capital to steal it. Al left completely bewildered. Rory and Ellen attacked him, and he told them it wasn't his fault, that he had the honey. In the capital, they sold the harvest, and suddenly, the king came to the store in disguise and Fal immediately hid. Al asked why he was acting that way, and he said he was just a normal customer, definitely not suspicious. He asked Al when he planned to join the family, but the boy told him he wasn't interested in his irresponsible daughter. So the king tries to bribe him with all the farmland in the kingdom, along with all the farming tools. Al fell under his spell, but Rory told him to get out of it before marrying that useless woman, who tried to eliminate her competition but accidentally hit her beloved. While unconscious, he heard the voice of a goddess in his head, calling his name, but before she could introduce herself, their connection was fading, so she said they would meet again very soon. Scene of Al almost hugging the king. The king realized he had woken up, so the poor ruler left with his radishes. The two then saw a man capturing a girl with the intention of selling her. Al approached and easily defeated the two captors. The third man fled. The girl was actually a demon and was frightened. Rux recognized her as Yuria and revealed that he was also a demon. He then told her that Yuria was the daughter of the demon king. Yuria begged for help, revealing that her assistant Wolf had told her she was in danger. He opened a portal and sent her away. Yuria wanted to return and save the demons, but Rux explained that the demon territory was on the other side of the ocean, and that the boat trip would take at least 3 days. Al accepted the mission and gave his pesticide to Rux to take care of the crops. Al said he knew a faster way and ran off across the water, carrying Yuria in his arms. Yuria was desperate and asked him to stop, but Al explained that if he stopped, they would both sink. They quickly reached the demon territory, and Yuria thanked him for the speed of the trip. Suddenly Wolf appeared and began to attack him. Al blocked the first attack, but Wolf continued to use magic and even shot at Yuria. Al managed to get behind him and knocked him down. Yuria was confused by the assistant's behavior. Wolf got up and prepared another attack, but before he could launch it, Al's mother appeared and knocked him out. She said she had received information from Rix and had come to make sure Al was okay. Together they headed for the Demon King's castle. Upon arriving, they found all the guards dead. Al wondered what had happened. Al's mother suspected that the soldiers had been controlled, just as Wolf seemed to have been. Yuria ran to the throne and found her father lying there. Al found a guard who was still alive, who told him that a girl was involved. The man tried to warn Yuria, but Al's mother attacked her. Al intervened and stopped the blow. He realized that this was not his real mother, as his real mother would have crushed him in an embrace. The imposter was surprised that he had noticed the deception. She returned to her original form, revealing herself as Olivia. Al was shocked to see that she was still alive. He thought back to the moment he had witnessed her death. Olivia revealed that she had survived thanks to the power of the evil god. She demonstrated her strength by attacking Yuria, but Al reacted in time and managed to save her. A huge gash and an explosion shook the mountain. When the dust settled, the landscape had been destroyed. Olivia was surprised to see that Al had managed to escape the attack, and concluded that this was only possible because he also possessed the power of the evil god in his body. Al didn't understand what Olivia meant, and she explained that his nature lover ability, which had increased all his attributes, was actually a power granted by the evil god. Al didn't believe her, as he had never encountered this entity, but Olivia insisted that he had. She promised to explain everything if he decided to join her. She said they could live together again, trying to persuade him with her enchanting eyes. However, Yuria called out to Al, and he awoke from the spell. Olivia was annoyed at being interrupted and grabbed Yuria by the neck. Al tried to intervene, but Olivia stopped him. She said that if he accepted the power of the evil god, she would allow Yuria to live. Yuria screamed for Al to run away. Olivia lost her patience with her and decided to kill her. Al broke free, and before Olivia could attack, Al's necklace began to glow. When he opened his eyes, he realized that time had frozen. Al was confused by what was happening, until the angelic figure appeared before him again. She introduced herself as the goddess of good. She said that thanks to the necklace that served as a conductor, she was able to manifest herself. She explained that she had used her power to stop time, but that she didn't have much time left. She said she was able to destroy the power of the evil god that existed within Al, and could replace it with her own power, allowing him to fight on equal terms. She took Al's hand and gave him her blessing. Then she restored the flow of time. Just as Olivia was preparing to attack Yuria, Al activated his new power. Olivia showed concern, but the immediate result was only the appearance of several sprouts. Everyone was confused. Olivia found the ability ridiculous, but the plants grew rapidly, enveloping her with vines. She managed to break free and summoned a sword. She advanced toward Al, but he activated the power once more, creating a wall of plants to protect himself. The vines grabbed Olivia again. Even when she cut them, the plants grew back and continued to hold her. Wolf appeared running and cast his magic. He went to Yuria, and she was glad to see that he was back to normal. Olivia emerged unscathed from the attack and counterattacked with her own magic. She passed Al and tried to finish him off, but he begged her to stop. Olivia said she was bored and promised they would meet again soon, when they were alone. A dark energy enveloped her body and she disappeared. Wolf aggressively questioned Al about his relationship with Olivia, but the king reminded him that Al had just saved them. Al explained that she was his adoptive sister and tried to clarify her connection to the evil god, but the king said he knew little about this deity and promised to contact him if he found out anything. Yuria was saddened by Al's departure and hugged him tightly, which made Wolf jealous and accused Al of trying to seduce her. Al returned to the farm and found Testa helping with the planting. He told him everything that had happened and asked if Testa remembered the time they explored the ruins. Testa only remembered Al fainting and said he didn't see any beasts appear. Al was disappointed to hear this, but the two shared a tasty tomato. Al thanked him for his help and invited him to accompany him to the capo, but Testa declined, saying he was busy fishing. Upon returning to the capo, Al took a shortcut, but attracted another orc. Tired of the situation, he decided to face it head-on. Al threw a punch with all his might, but the orc just fell to the ground. He got up immediately and Al fled in panic. Al was saved by his adventurer friends who commented that he still had difficulty with orcs, questioning whether he had weakened. Al found this strange. Back at the guild, he told Helen and Ruri everything, and they also found that the orc resisted their attacks. Helen asked to see his status, and everyone saw that the overwhelming power he possessed had disappeared. Al realized that when the goddess gave him his new power, she had also removed the ability of the evil god, which was responsible for boosting his attributes. Helen told him not to worry, as he was still much stronger than most adventurers. Rix appeared and handed him another letter from Al's mother. Helen and Ruri tried to peek, but found a warning directed at them, cautioning them not to make romantic advances. The two wondered if Al's mother had spies watching everything. Considering her past as commander of the Shadow Puppeteers, Al continued reading. The letter promised that she would investigate Olivia and said that he would always be welcome at home. In the end, she just devoted herself to expressing how much she loved him. On her way out, Rix ran into Phalos. She wanted to spend time with Al, which made Ruri and Helen jealous. The four spent some time together, and Al remained thoughtful about Olivia's sudden appearance and the evil god's plans. He tried, however, to enjoy the company of the friends he had made. He reflected on how he had met each of them and the adventures they had experienced. He decided he needed to become stronger to protect them all, just as he protected his crops. For Al was, above all, a farmer. And so ends the first season of the anime. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like to help the channel. Check your subscription too so you don't miss out on the best anime content. And soon I'll be back with a new complete story for you.